I may have mentioned it on this podcast before, but I love firsts. Who doesn't love firsts? You remember all your firsts. Well, most of your firsts. Your first love, your first drink, first time you went to a professional baseball game or football game, first loves, first time you had sex. Yeah, that's big time first. I love firsts. And tonight on Whiskey Business, I'm excited about our first. This is our first Facebook Live podcast. And I'm excited about it because I have no idea where it's going to go, how it's going to go, because we get to do this now with warts and all. We don't do a whole lot of editing when we do a podcast on a regular basis, but because for those of you who watch the YouTube videos, you know that. But this time around, I mean, there's no what I call podcast remorse on Facebook Live tonight. No, we're actually doing everything as you see it, warts and all, and I'm thrilled that you're joining us because we've got a couple of other firsts tonight as well. We will be drinking from a first bottle that we'll tell you about a little bit later. The one thing that's not a first is our very special guest, James Canepa, Superintendent of Liquor Control for the state of Ohio, is back with us, and I thought he would be the perfect guest for Facebook Live because, as you know, on Facebook Live, you can start sending your comments and your questions for the superintendent, who I affectionately call the boss of booze, the wizard of whiskey, the raconteur of rum, or if you want to go on the evil side of it, the Voldemort of vodka.
You forgot Whiskey Gypsy.
Whiskey Gypsy. But he joins us for the third time on Whiskey Business. And of course, we can't do Whiskey Business without the exceptional crew that I have.
And by the way, you forgot what about the first time you wore a dress?
I have worn a dress before.
Of course.
Yeah, I have, actually. And you know what? And there's video proof of that. Yeah, I'll tell you that story later. I wore a dress when I worked at Sunny 95 for a commercial. And you know what?
I'm not surprised.
I look pretty damn good in it. Yeah. I have very strong...
Nice gams.
I have very strong calves. But I digress.
That was before man spanks even. Like this is legit dress wearing.
I can't do the podcast without the audio genius of Greg Hansberry over there. And the guy who went into production beast mode for this tonight. Oh my God, he brought so much equipment to make sure that we did the best possible job we could do on Facebook Live. John Whitney, who just gave you the big thumbs up, and Chip Cosell is back there helping us out as well. And there's a bunch of people here with Jim Canepa. Jay Miller is with him, and Jennifer Richardson's in the back hanging out from the state of Ohio. And I'll let Hansberry do some of the quick social medias before we actually get started.
Well, so we are streaming on Facebook Live, so thank you to all of you Facebook fans out there. Share this post.
The Facebooks.
Yeah, the Facebooks.
Share
this.
The Facebooks.
Right now.
You sound like an old man. I don't want to be on the Facebooks.
The www. Share this link right now because
that like an
we're going to
app
be
or
going
something?
on the Facebook.
Yeah,
we'll explain it later.
Okay.
After we talk about the Dino wearing a dress.
Can I bookmark
explain
that?
the
Can I
Facebooks.
bookmark the Facebooks?
You can do that. You can do that.
whatever
Yeah,
you want.
you can get it on the iCloud. Whatever the hell that is. All right, share this. Thank you, and hit that little subscribe button. You also will be able to watch this again on YouTube. John Whitney does an amazing YouTube channel for
really
Whiskey
does.
Business. It's Whiskey Business with Dino Tripodis. Subscribe there, and you could click right there on the bell icon, and that's the notification thing, and you'll get
You're very
notifications.
excited about the bell
Yeah,
icon.
yeah.
You've never mentioned the bell icon until recent weeks.
It's the new hip terminology on the WWWs, on the interwebs. I have actually been doing homework and watching YouTube feeds, and they say to do that.
That's good. I'm so glad.
I've been watching the unboxing things where the
nice.
kids
Between playing like
hit the
learning
bell.
Sonic cheats
cheats,
and stuff.
yeah, left, right. Oh, yeah, exactly. Instagram, Facebook, obviously. Follow us on your favorite podcasting app. Hit subscribe right there and rate and review us. Also, for the Facebook Live people, I'm going to have to cut this for the podcast. Tomorrow is another episode of our premise. If you want to throw the details out there.
Is this about Facebook or whiskey, man?
Oh, it's well, you know
I've
what?
said
Since we're
Facebook more
Facebook
times in
Live,
the past 5 minutes than ever in my entire life.
You even told
We're
me.
all about
You
Facebook.
said this whole Facebook Live thing is going huge. I got people from Atlanta.
That doesn't
calling
mean
me
it's
about it.
good.
It's something that we have to take advantage of. So
Okay,
we
whatever.
will prostitute ourselves and mention that tomorrow night on the upfront stage at Shadowbox Live, our sister podcast, The Premise, will be taking place. And for those of you who aren't familiar with The Premise, that's when we give some comedic performers a premise that they haven't seen or heard for the very first time. They have 20 minutes to write 3 to 5 minutes of stand-up material. Tomorrow night, we take it a step further, and we have sketch groups, two-person sketch groups that will be performing at Shadowbox. So the premise will be a little more in-depth, and they'll be able to write a 3 to 5 minute sketch based on the premise they got. Show starts at 8 o'clock. Tickets are $10. Shadowbox Live, the upfront stage. Join us if you can. I've already heard from a lot of people that were very excited about the whole sketch concept, so I'm hoping that we sell the joint out tomorrow night. Is that everything that we need to do as far as the?
If I say any more about Facebook, I think John.
You should
Jim's
mention the
gonna-
bell again.
Yeah. There's a little icon.
Are
bell.
you on Facebook? Do you have a Facebook page,
I'm
Jim
a stalker.
Canepa?
I ghost.
Do you do? I know that the
ghost.
state of Ohio has all their Facebook.
If I
stuff.
see like some old musical act or something, I share it.
You share
That's
it.
about
So you do have a Facebook
I
page.
do.
You personally have
I
a
do.
Facebook. I personally do not have a Facebook page.
That's smart.
Yeah.
That's good judgment.
Well, I had
your
one
part.
in the get-go when it first started to explode, and it got so invasive that, and I mean,
I have like 14 friends, but I do have it.
and as far
After
as
this
I'm
podcast,
concerned,
you may only have 10 though.
as far as I'm concerned, that's 12 too many.
That's right.
As far as friends go, and you're with Che Miller.
Correct.
Che Miller is with you, who I've met Che when we were on one of our recent excursions.
You know how Jack Hanna brings zoo animals on the show? He's who I'm bringing.
He's your
and if he
penguin.
doesn't shit on you, it's a success.
If he doesn't shit on you and
bite
then
your
throws
face.
it at you
Right.
at the same time, as
be
you
a good
know,
night.
one of the reasons, like I said, we wanted to go Facebook Live with Jim Canepa is because, as the Superintendent of Ohio Liquor Control, and as we know, we have a lot of liquor enthusiasts out there. This is your opportunity to ask questions, to send questions. You can send your comments and your questions, but if you have actual specific questions for the superintendent, we will address them as we go throughout the podcast. I have questions that I will be asking and talking about. And also, later on in the podcast, we're going to address, God, social media is so freaking vicious. Right here, this is just a printed out copy of just some of the mean tweets that James Canepa has gotten in respects to his position and the job that he's doing for the state of Ohio. You guys are brutal, and at the same time hysterical, because they're awesomely
Yes.
funny. And like, I mean, do you read these? I mean, we'll get to them later, but do you read these and go cry somewhere?
In the fetal position?
Yeah, absolutely. Oh no, naked in the fetal
Actually,
position
they're-
with a bottle of Jack Daniels. That's the way I do it.
Some of them are so like ridiculous. They're funny, and
Yeah.
they kind of make my day.
you have to have a thick skin.
It's funny. A lot of them, and we'll talk about it more. But a lot of them have assumptions about like how stuff works, and then they just get like mad about it, and then like troll you, as they're eating Cheetos in their mom's basement. So
Is that what you think they're doing?
I know it.
You know it.
I know it.
They're eating the Cheetos, and
Yep.
they got the orange fingers, and they're getting pissed off because
and they're
now-
getting mad.
because they've got the orange
Right.
fingers, and they're still upset about what's going on. Right. Yeah, I get it.
But little information might help, might not help, but we'll see.
I want to initially thank you again for coming back, because each time you've been on Whiskey Business, it's been a huge success. People have watched it with curiosity. They've watched it and enjoyed it, and some, honestly, have watched it with frustration and anger, as we'll get to with the mean tweets.
I couldn't imagine that at all.
Yeah, right.
I love it.
I mentioned Che. Che was with us when we went down to Buffalo Trace.
Jay is a certified bourbon nut.
Yeah,
Right.
we have him.
He's one of these guys who used to send me these hate things.
I never sent anything
You
like
know-
that.
Oh yeah,
Don't lie.
It was
Don't
just
lie.
bad.
Did
It
you
was
send
just
him
bad,
did
like
you
bags
send-
of burning
you-
poo.
It may have been.
on
It may
my-
have been Jana Miller because that's how I used to be on Facebook. We were talking about Facebook. I never had Facebook.
But he's
until
one of
bourbon,
these
but-
like nuts, and so he was.
How did you two get to be friends?
Because he was constantly bugging me and asking questions and frustrated and mad.
So-
and he's part of like a bourbon subculture.
So
And
you kind of put the old Godfather, keep your friends close and your enemies closer. Just bring
no,
them closer to you.
he and a group of his buddies invited me to somebody's house, like out in the sticks.
He was worried. We were worried too. We thought maybe he was going to bring like
And
a
did he
SWAT
come?
team.
Did you
He
go?
did show up. He
I
brought
did.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
What are you thinking? As the
I'm like gonna-
superintendent of the state of Ohio,
If I
liquor
make it
control,
out-
you're going to go to some kegger in the sticks that's got whiskey. What are you thinking?
I just had like a vision of like bearded guys with flannel shirts.
Pitchforks.
Yeah, and like a dark room, and
But you got a home cooked meal.
I went out there.
We had some great bourbon.
And I just figured if I could go out there and meet these dudes and like talk about bourbon and talk about like what we're doing and talk about like how it actually works versus like all their conspiracy theories and getting each other all ginned up.
Ginned up. Ginned up. Get ginned up.
Ginned
Not
up.
whiskeyed up.
Gymmed up. I think it'd be Jim
Oh,
up.
Jim. You
Jimmed
said
up.
Jim?
And I thought I was going to get ambushed. I totally thought I was going to get ambushed. Like the first time I came on this show, you had
Right.
a list of questions you were going to beat me over the head with.
No.
Yeah.
No, I didn't
Yeah,
beat you over
but
the head with him. I did not beat you over the head with him.
You-
He
no.
brought liquor, so we went easy on
Yeah.
him.
Yeah.
Well, I just I quitted myself, so you couldn't. So
We could go back on YouTube and look that.
so, but no, I went out
we
to
could
the
go back
thing,
on
and
YouTube and see
these
True.
guys love bourbon, love it. They love talking about it. They love drinking it. They love,
Hunting it.
sharing it, hunting it, and they just wanted to like, don't ruin it.
He looks like a hunter.
Yeah,
He
don't
looks like
ruin
a
it. Don't
hunter.
ruin it.
He looks like a whiskey hunter.
So they had like ideas, and they continue to send ideas.
And that's one of the things, and despite the haters that we'll get to a little bit later, that's one of the things that I do appreciate about you and the position that you're in. You do listen. You do listen. You don't always agree, but you do listen to what people think and what their ideas are. We already have a question right out of the gate on Facebook Live. First of all, thank you, Justin Lemaster. I hope I'm saying that correctly. Our first question, because it leads right into our guest bottle this evening. What new bourbons can we expect in the near future? Well, Justin, guess what?
Here's one.
Here's one that's coming that we selfishly and indulgently, and I don't mean to throw it in your face, but we get to try here tonight on Whiskey Business. We would not dare, the superintendent of the state of Ohio would not dare bring a whiskey and share it with the Whiskey Business crew if he didn't think that the state of Ohio could also benefit. Old Granddad 114. I love this bottle. I've tasted this bottle, but I haven't been able to buy this bottle in Ohio. Tell us
And
about
it's right
it.
in the wheelhouse of whiskey business too.
It's
under 50 bucks.
It's under $50. I'm gonna. May I cork it?
Do it.
There you go. There
she
you go.
goes.
I'll let you pour it, sir.
So this is an example of like part of my job is cajoling, twisting arms, being a whiskey gypsy, right?
A whiskey gypsy. I like
yeah.
that.
So Beam Suntory, this is a Beam product, and I'm like, guys, like my whiskey nuts are chewing my ankle off about OGD 114. They can't get it. They want it. Blah blah blah. And they're like, shoot, we have it. And I'm like, well, how can I get it? And they're like, yeah. And so this is part of my job is cajoling, convincing, creating a market in Ohio where these.
Yeah, that one's for John. That one's
Spencer
for
asked,
Chip.
where can you find it at?
We haven't.
You can't.
You can't.
No,
Spencer.
It's coming.
You can find it in Kentucky right now.
Okay, fair enough.
It's
Fair enough.
coming.
There you go,
It's
Spencer.
coming.
Be patient, please.
So,
Yeah,
Jen, what's the 411 on the 114?
You had to get that in there, didn't
Yeah,
you?
Yeah.
he worked that in really well.
Cheers. Yeah, go
The
for it.
411 on the 114.
He did tell me he was going to
I
be
like
here
that.
already, though.
What's that?
It's very limited. We're only getting about 350 cases
It's limited.
350 cases. She says what's coming.
So-
approximately. Don't hold her to that.
So the way this works,
Yeah.
right? It's a business, and so Beam.
It is?
It is.
It's a business?
It's not a
What?
club.
it's
It's a business.
you say?
It's a $1.4 billion business. And so Ohio has to convince that 114 is wanted in the state because they want market share. And so they're like, okay, Jim, we'll try it out with 350 cases, and we're going to put it in 100 agencies that sell bourbon. And we'll see how it does. And if it does well, which I think it will, then we get more.
Well, here's the deal. And like I said, Hansberry, you've never tried it before, right?
I actually have my brother-in-law. Shout out to
look
Matt
at
Schmidt.
you.
Brought
Look
me a
at
bottle
you.
for my birthday.
Look at
Gifted
you.
it legally.
Yeah, and that is funny you brought that up
Let-
because
let
I
me
think
just-
this is
let
one of
me-
those bourbons that everybody, when you go out of the state, if you go to Kentucky, everyone
Yeah,
tries to bring a bottle
this-
back home. So
To the nose, right off the bat,
This,
this thing just comes right at you,
Yeah,
right from the
it's-
get-go.
it's
With,
it's got provenance. It goes back to 1796. It's got Basil Hayden as one of its originators. His grandson, Colonel J.B. Hayden, and George Remus bought out Old Granddad in Prohibition, and that was part of his bootleg empire. So it's got provenance. It's barrel strength.
It is.
It's got a high rye mash bill. It's a great whiskey, and it's no wonder that everybody wants it. Now I didn't know about it.
63% corn, I believe 27% rye, and 10% malted barley, and it's got a nice little nose of cinnamon and brown sugar.
It tastes. I got a peanutty flavor to
You
it.
got a peanutty
Yeah.
to the palate. See, I get a more fruity taste.
I think we established that he has no idea about
thanks,
anything.
Jeff.
But he's gotten so much better. You
Well,
don't have no idea.
that's it's
From
only
where I've come,
it's only up
from
from
whence
the
I came.
it's
For
up
him to
from the
even-
basement.
Yeah, for him to even discuss the nose and the palate.
Also,
at this
there's. I
point.
think there might have been
I
some
know.
Buffalo Trace in here too. So.
there probably was. Yeah,
Wait,
I
so
could like a
Greg-
caramel though. Like a
Greg's
caramel and,
chiming
dark
in.
cherry.
Who is?
You know, Greg Campbell.
Greg Campbell in Atlanta.
And maybe you've answered this a little bit, but he wants to know why has it taken so long to get this in Ohio? I mean,
So,
probably not a
so
cut and dry answer.
So that's probably a setup question because Greg actually knows the answer.
And I was
Thanks,
going to ask you
Greg.
that too, though, because you brought it before.
So
he also made a comment about dill pickle vodka.
yeah, no, or cilantro vodka,
No,
or
okay.
or,
Not
or
happening.
fruity pebble
Not
vodka.
coming.
So-
that's the Voldemort of vodka saying no.
So let me pull the string on my back on this question because I get it all the time.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so there are two categories of spirits in Ohio and everywhere. There's bourbon and everything else.
and everything else.
All right, gin, vodka, rum, Canadian, all the other categories, except for maybe tequila, are flat in demand. So people aren't chasing. There aren't truck chasers for gin, right?
Despite the fact that everybody kept saying that gin was experiencing this huge renaissance.
And maybe it will. And maybe
No, supposedly it did. I mean, I started hearing about gin coming back into the mainstream with the classic cocktails and the craft cocktails. That gin was a big part of that. But
people aren't chasing it.
they're not chasing it.
People aren't waiting in line before a store
an hour and a
opens.
half.
People
Waiting for a
aren't
big gin.
sleeping in their car in Kentucky for a day before the store opens.
Now you?
I've done that before. Yeah, there's quite a few people that are probably listening to done that. Yeah.
So
I sleep out. They stay out in chairs, lawn chairs
So
before.
you can do that. You have the luxury to be able to.
Well, I mean, I don't know if it's a luxury, but
No,
I mean,
it
you
is a
take days.
luxury
You
for
take
you to
days
go
off.
someplace
Well,
and
you
sit
take
in your
days
car
off.
the night
That's what we
before.
talked about before. It's like Jim said that
Are
we
you
know there are a lot
taking
of people.
vacation days?
I take
to go-
vacation days.
Take
Yeah.
vacation days to go
I
sit
have,
in
heck
your
yeah.
car.
I mean, you
and
can ask
wait
my
for
boss. My
bourbon.
boss, I can tell him. I mean,
it's the demand.
knows.
So the
It's-
demand
Wow.
in this category
I'm
is so
impressed.
crazy, right? So what people don't understand is the state of Ohio or Big Red in Indiana or Crown in Indiana or any other private retailer doesn't tell Beam, gosh darn it, we want this, right? They make it. They're the supplier.
Right.
They decide where the high demand, low supply stuff goes, not the consumer, right? But people get so wrapped around the wheel about like how this works. This isn't an entitlement. This is a product made by a manufacturer and a supplier who's in business to get market share against their competitors, right? Let me pull the string again. And their competitors, Beam's competitors are Sazerac, Heaven Hill, Wild Turkey, Diageo, Luxco. All these suppliers are competing against each other for market share. And where do they want to bring their product? They want to bring their product, they want to sell their product to somebody who is selling it at the velocity and at the same rate that their competitors are. So my job is to make Ohio a fertile marketplace. And guess what? We're killing it. We're killing it. I mean, I look at my competitors. Let me pull a string. My competitors are Pennsylvania.
What is that string you're pulling?
You know, like
Pennsylvania.
the GI Joes.
Don't launch into corporate rhetoric.
So PA, North Carolina, Virginia, Michigan, Alabama are my competitors because they are competing with Ohio for these products, as well as Asia, Canada, Europe,
right?
All these marketplaces. So what I have to do is make these suppliers want to bring it to me. I don't get to demand it. None of these retailers get to demand it.
That's a great word. I don't get to demand it. You, as the superintendent of liquor control, you don't get to say, I want this.
Right.
You have to work for it like everybody else.
I'm a gypsy.
Right. You're a whiskey gypsy.
I have to convince them that Ohio is the place to bring this.
So they say, okay, we'll give you 350 cases of it and see how it
works.
goes.
Right.
Yeah, right. Which you know, and I'm imagine in your time in this job and also in the previous podcast that we have, you know that first of all, the price point on this, under $30 a bottle, is great, because
the provenance is great.
Is great. All right.
The barrel strength is
awesome.
great.
It's got and it's in the little sips that I've had now. I was reminded of what a great nose and a great palate has, and also what a really strong finish this has. I mean, granted.
Let me tell you exactly how this happened. So I'm talking to some Beam Suntory guys, and they're like, "Hey Jim, Ohio." I'm like, "Guys, what's going on?" They're like, "We're talking about the Gap." I'm like,
Gap?
The Gap.
What's the Gap?
I'm like, "That's what I said." I'm like, "What's the Gap?" And he's like, "Well, Ohio sells."
That's where I get all my T-shirts.
Yeah.
Or you said.
and dad jeans. American whiskey. The American whiskey we sell in Ohio year over year, 14% growth, right? And so that's a stat. It doesn't mean anything. But you look at baseball and stats and all that kind of stuff. That's what these companies do. Well, if we sell American whiskey at 14% growth year over year for November, December, January, what they're looking at is how does our brand stack up against that 14% growth? And Beam's like, we're growing at 7 to 8%. And I'm like, isn't that great?
That's good.
Because the average growth for these companies is 5 to 6%.
So 7%.
And I'm like, aren't your owners like patting you on the head?
But they're looking at the other stat.
No, they're looking at Ohio in that category, which is 14.5%.
And they're wondering.
So they're like, we sell it at 7. The state is selling it at 14. How do we make up that gap? And I'm like, sell me OGD 114. And they're like,
they fell into your trap.
They fell right into my trap. Right? So if you look at the surrounding states, like Michigan, Pennsylvania, they're like 5%, 6%. The best is 10%. We're 14%. So like they.
And why do you think that is?
Because we love our bourbon, man. We're close to Kentucky. It's just the demand here is nuts, and it's self-fulfilling, right? The more barrel programs that we have, the more Weller products, the more Old Forester birthday products, the more we sell, the more cool offerings we get. Now, people are like, yeah, well, but we don't get hard to get stuff.
We don't. Yeah, all right.
Well, no.
Which I'm about to address.
You don't see it because the demand is so crazy. You can ask Che. The demand is so crazy that as soon as it's like they already have the truck delivery schedules. They're waiting when this stuff pulls up and it's sold within an hour after it's loaded off.
I think an hour. Some things an hour is a long time. I mean, some of the things are sold before the liquor store even opens up. So you'll have, some of the products that people hate on, like Blanton's or OWA, that are sold out before the store even opens.
I'm gonna break this down into a couple of categories. From the time that we first met,
Am I answering your questions back here?
and you came on the podcast. Let's start with the good. All right, let's start with the good. Where are we at right now as far as the good? What has improved? What has gotten better, despite some of the haters?
Right. What's the reality?
What's the reality of where we're at and where we've come since you got into this position and took it, and I say this sincerely, took it seriously. Mm-hmm. So where are we at right now as far as the good? What good has happened over the last couple of years?
Probably the headline, the lead story would be way more bourbon, way more volume of the hard-to-get stuff. For example, the best example is Weller, Reserve Weller 107, green label, red label. Mm-hmm. We're the only state that gets regular allocations of that. Why? Because Sazerac
we discussed this
wants to put that in
the previous podcast.
In a market that's going to gobble it up so that they can show their shareholders and their owners, like, look what's going on here.
And a lot of people have bitched and moaned over the price increase. And I will remind people that if you didn't watch the last podcast that I did with James Canepa, Ohio, it was just catching up to what everybody else was paying for that.
Right, and Ohio doesn't determine the price. The manufacturer determines the price.
The manufacturer determines the price, and they just bumped it up to what everybody else was paying.
And so, again, the big headline, to answer the question, what has improved, what's different, is we get way more of the hard-to-get stuff. We get way more of everything. We're getting more listings, more offerings, more, because it's business. It's basic business 101. If you are a marketplace that's selling the hell out of somebody's product, they want to give you more. And if you're selling it right, and what I mean by right is fairly. I will tell you, and I think I told you the story before about Sazerac and Mark Brown.
Right.
We were cut off from Pappy. When I got the job in 2017, the state of Ohio was getting no Pappy. And I see the guy, he's this English guy, and I see him at a trade show, and people are introducing me, Mark, this is Jim, he's the new superintendent of Ohio, blah, blah, blah. And he's, Jim, what's going on? What can I do? And I said, what can you do? Turn the spigot back on Pappy.
Right.
I said, what do I have to do to get the faucet turned back on?
And he's
like, sell it fairly. And I'm like, what does that mean? He's like, regular people can't get it. He goes, your flippers, your truck chasers in secondary market are gobbling up all the Pappy and selling it for ridiculous prices on the secondary market. And I'm like, well, what do you want me to do? Lottery. So lottery was not Jim Canepa's idea. It was Mark Brown's idea. And it's so that regular people can get it. Now, Jay will tell you, he's like, dude, you cut into my game.
My game, yeah.
You cut into my game because I have relationships with the agencies.
Well, there were people. I mean, there was definitely a true thing.
On the very first podcast that we did with Jim Canepa, we bitched about the list, and I called him out, and I told you that there were, agencies that had lists for certain customers, and apparently you were one of them.
There was a lot of guys that have been doing this longer than I have in this area, and but a lot of people did work and get relationships where they were able to build relationships and go there, and people took care of them. They were there buying wine. So, although the lottery became the fairway, it did cut in something else and leads to people that are angry because now they no longer can get it.
I get it. I had a guy like that too, for the most part. I want to remind.
I have to say I do hate the lottery only because I never win, ever.
I don't
ever. And anybody that's watched this knows I never have won a lottery.
I'm more of a defeatist than you are. I don't even enter the lottery anymore.
I'm at that point,
but I will tell you, for every hate email that I get, for every troll that I get like 10 real people who are like, God, thank you for making this fair.
Yeah, that is true. I mean, there's a lot of guys you see that are super pumped to get their first BTAC or Pappy that they've never been able to get, and
well,
it's
once
for
again,
the
we
price
talked
that it
about
should be.
first.
The guy who gets a
Beginning.
birthday, a bottle of birthday bourbon
Birthday
is just
bourbon, yeah.
psyched.
I mean, it's exciting. If you're a whiskey lover, or bourbon lover, or any spirit lover for that matter, when you get your first bottle of something, and I said firsts are very important. I want to remind all our Facebook Live viewers to chime in with your questions that might be appropriate to this particular podcast. I have one right here from my buddy Rick Andreessen. It is a little county specific, okay? Because and this is probably a with this one, the 114, the old Granted. How he wants to know, how do we get, quote, the good stuff in Jefferson County? You know, and that's
Blanton's Weller, he says.
you know,
Great question. So what's his name?
His name's Rick Andreessen.
Good question, Rick. All right, so Mythbuster.
Myth
busting
Bust
here.
the myth.
Things
Okay,
have to blow up for Mythbusters. This
so
Let's
the
blow something up.
so
before night's
the
over.
so the suppliers again are looking at their markets. I can't underscore this enough. They're looking at what liquor agency sells my competitor's bourbon at a price point that I want to compete with to grab market share. And so Columbus sells the hell out of bourbon.
Yeah, they do.
And so you can put any bourbon at any price range in Columbus, and it's gone in half an hour. So if you're the owner of Rabbit Hole, and you're trying to make a mark in the marketplace, where do you want to put your bourbon when you bring it in? You want to put it in Ohio, in Columbus. So you're looking for the liquor agencies in the marketplace that sell the heck out of your bourbon,
Right.
because your game is to establish your brand, to sell your brand. It's not for one guy in Preble County who likes your product, right?
Or one guy in
Jefferson
Jefferson
County.
County, because I know Rick, and I actually, I went to high school with Rick.
So Rick,
And he's a huge.
so Rick is correct. What the companies will do is they'll look at Ohio at a 30,000 foot view from a marketplace standpoint, and they'll be like, here's where we want to put our product, Jim. This agency, this agency, this agency, this agency, and they'll give me a list.
Okay, so when this
So
comes
can I
out,
ask a question about that?
when this comes out to Ohio,
It'll go to 100 agencies.
Right.
do you determine that, or do they determine that?
They make recommendations.
Does he listen to his guests
No, that's
at
what I was
all?
just gonna say. Yeah,
Does
I
he,
think.
Does he listen to his guests when they're answering?
No,
but I was gonna
at
ask
all?
the
Listen
same-
back.
No, I was gonna ask the same thing.
No, he
I
didn't.
want-
He's not
I
listening.
want- no, I do listen.
Yeah.
I want to be specific.
So, for example, on this one, Beam Centauri will say, Jim, we want to put this in 100 agencies.
Yes.
And I'll be like, which ones? Which ones do you want to put them in?
So you,
Yes.
I'm
See
saying
that-
you ultimately.
Which ones do you want?
I
Why
know
do
that
I?
you ultimately decide
Why?
where they go, but do you consult? Do you just
No.
close your eyes and say
No. So
Franklin County?
So I have two choices. One is actually weigh in to Beam Centauri, who wants to bring this to Ohio, and say, well, I don't know about that agency. Well, what about that agency? And I start like second guessing all their marketing choice because they're only a Fortune 50 international company.
That's all.
Right, that's all.
That's all.
You know. And so they've done their marketing research.
By the way, we're up for sponsorship.
Yeah. and so like I'm gonna have my bureaucrats second guess Beam Centauri.
Right.
Right?
No.
No. And so I'm gonna say, where do you want to put it? I'll put it wherever you want to put it. Why?
Because you want to get it in Ohio.
Because my second choice is we don't get it.
we don't get it. Right. Right. So
Right?
So
with all due respect to your friend, like I'm gonna put it where they want it to go so I can get more, right? That's my foot in the door.
So
It
you're-
sits on the
so-
shelf
so
in
you- so you-
Jefferson
if
County.
it
It's not
sits,
gonna do anybody
if
good.
it sits on the shelf in Jefferson County,
Well,
Beam
no,
Centauri
well-
goes, Well, it ain't selling very good.
But
I'm sending it to Virginia.
Yeah, but I had a segue into this as I'm glad you brought this because it's a great topic, because I think there's a lot of confusion in the bourbon enthusiasts is that Jim is the all powerful man behind the curtain, and he makes all the decisions.
Though I did listen to you
so
earlier,
he does
I wanted
make
you
a
to
lot. Yeah,
clarify
he makes
it
a
again.
lot of decisions,
I know
and I
you
think
do.
you're doing the same thing. And I was going to say the same thing is that's what I think people forget is, even though he is the head guy here, he's at the will of the company
But he
bringing it in.
gets
I
the
think
credit
he hides
and
that
he gets the
sometimes.
blame.
But I think
That's
he
right.
does a great job.
He gets the credit and the blame.
Yeah, but this is what him and I talk on a personal note. It really pisses me off because he takes a lot of flack and a lot of heat for stuff that are decisions made by distributors or the manufacturers.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing that you have to look at. It's like Jim said earlier, it's a business, so he has to follow. And it's like, say, you want us to put it in these 100 places? No, you don't. And if I were the marketing guy, I'd say, then guess what? These are the last cases you get, and good luck with whatever you're selling.
Right. So it's like I said, there's two categories: bourbon and everything else. Right. Now on the vodka, on the pickle vodka, right?
That sounds awful. I'm sorry. It sounds.
Did you bring a bottle of that?
On the pickle vodka, the cocoa puff vodka, the cilantro vodka.
My sister at Thanksgiving was like drowning herself in whipped cream vodka.
Salmon.
Oh, not
Vodka.
salmon.
Yeah, there's a salmon.
Salmon.
Salmon sucks on its own, let alone in vodka.
Salmon.
It's heart healthy.
Salmon.
Yeah, but all these vodkas you can get at your last call stores eventually,
Right.
for a really good price.
Who said? First of all, who said? You know what?
This is
Salmon
a
vodka
great
would be good.
idea.
And then, more importantly, who said? I agree and signed off on it. Salmon vodka.
So they signed off on it, and guess what? Here come the salesmen with their suitcases of salmon vodka.
That poor bastard. I feel bad for the poor bastard that has to walk in someplace, into a store to try to sell freaking salmon vodka. That's got to be like the toughest job in the world. Oh my God. If they just sent me to here to sell vodka, it'd be fine. But now I've got to sell salmon vodka? Why don't
And
I
if you
just-
really like salmon vodka, we have hairball vodka.
Yeah, exactly. For those of you who are fans of the salmon, here's nutsack vodka.
Yeah.
For those of you who enjoy the taste of a good nutsack, we've included it in our vodka.
So
That's a great martini.
So yeah, you got to try
That
it in a
just made me
martini.
cringe.
You got to try it in a martini. So,
Just
but
put some
these
bourbon
guys,
in it.
Oh, try it.
I don't even wanna think
try
about
it in a crab
the,
cocktail. You won't even notice the nutsack.
Yeah.
The nutsack is just a
The garnish, I don't even want to think about.
a couple olives on a stick.
they're queen olives.
Oh my God.
So
I'm sorry.
So these
Regal
guys have to
olives,
come
God.
and they have to like sell this to me, and I'm like, no, right? So on everything other than vodka, there's thumbs up, thumbs down. But on bourbon, it's like I buy everything I can buy except for flavored vodkas or flavored bourbons. Like if you're trying to sell me, blackberry bourbon, I'm probably going to debate you.
I have some blackberry.
I'm sure you
do.
I have some
No,
blackberry bourbon. That
I don't
was
want to
a-
hear about your
No,
It
no,
was
opinion
a
on
no,
gift.
blackberry.
no.
I have not opened it,
I've
and
never
I
had
feel bad
blackberry.
because it came from a friend of mine, a very dear friend. My college roommate gave me a bottle of blackberry bourbon, and I went, "Oh," and I haven't.
But I want to underscore this point. I buy all the bourbon that I can buy. There's no thumbs up, thumbs down.
Can I ask a question about? So you said that several times, and I believe that wholeheartedly. So, what bourbon? Give it. Everyone wants to know. So, if there were 3 bourbons that you could buy right now that you're not getting, and meaning not getting because
that's
they
good,
won't
'cause
get it.
that-
What would
that
your top 3
segues
be?
into another Facebook Live question. So go ahead.
Will it?
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
And we're working on that.
That-
I got to talk to the
And
owner.
and I feel very confident that it's going to happen.
I feel like it's going to happen
I believe in you, James Canepa.
You can do it, Jim.
The owner himself, Drew, has a misconception about like how he gets paid. Like for the last 15
Misconception
years.
how he gets paid. John Whitney stepping in to
Oh,
grab
we
someone.
But-
Yeah. Go
Yeah,
ahead,
just
John.
talk about- after that, I'd like to comment on that if you could.
Will it is like the big one, right? That everybody
Everyone wants, and actually, like another bourbon enthusiast brokered that conversation with you,
That's
which I
right.
think is again goes back to why we got
Another
together.
bourbon nut
Yeah.
that knows the owner
Exactly.
actually gave me the hookup.
Bourbon nut too close to the
The
ball
vodka.
talk.
Vodka.
Yeah,
Vodka
yeah,
nut.
Ball sack vodka.
Nah. Bourbon nut. is different than bourbon nut sack.
So
We're getting a lot of play on that on the
bourbon
Facebook
nut sack
Live.
is
Thank
an
you.
insult. Bourbon nut is a compliment.
So the guy who does all the bourbon tastings on YouTube, he did a Pappy 23 versus everything else, and he did 6 blinds, and at the end of the day, like Michter's 20 beat Pappy 23, but the third one was a thing called Woodinville, and this guy was like, "Holy crap! This is a 6-year-old." Bourbon out of Colorado, Oregon, Oregon,
Yeah.
Colorado, Oregon.
West Coast, mountains and stuff. And so, like, I'm immediately on this quest to get Woodinville in the state. And guess what? We're getting Woodinville.
Awesome.
So that's kind of the game, right? There's stuff that I want to get in because I'm a bourbon nut, right? I mean, my friends, Scott, Jason, Dave, they're all bourbon nuts. When I got the job, they gave me a punch list. This is what you need to do. This is what you need
This
to
is what you need to do.
Yeah, this is what you need to do.
Now that you're the guy,
Yeah.
this is
And
what
it's
we
like-
want. This is what we
it's
want.
like boxes to check
Yeah,
off.
yeah, right,
like
right,
have
right.
festivals, will it, do all these things.
I got 2 questions. I'm going to start with Chrissy Ross, who is watching from the state of Delaware. Awesome. Thank you so much. She says, Delaware doesn't get any good whiskey. What does Jim know about other state allocations?
So Delaware is an open state.
It's an open state. We are a control
We are a
state.
control state.
Let's emphasize that.
Evil government controlled state. It's,
Control.
No,
We're
no, there's
controlling.
sorry. I was supposed to say that. Yeah.
Right.
But
We're controlling
let's,
you.
Let's first
That's
of all,
a great
let's
question.
let's answer Chrissy's question first, and then we can talk about
So Delaware
control
Delaware
and
is an open state.
because I got some bitches about open.
Yeah, Indiana, open state. New York, open state. Illinois,
Open state, which is where my bitch will come in.
Is,
Can-
is Michigan like a hybrid?
No,
or?
Michigan is a control state. So, Chrissy
Chrissy wants to know why.
So Delaware has individual retailers, the drive-through, the grocery store, the corner beer store, all these retailers, and each one of them has to compete against each other. All 10,000 individual retailers have to compete for this.
that.
And they own their own monopoly.
They own their beer, they own their wine, they own their high-proof spirits. And so each one of them has to do what Jim does on the state level. That each one of them has to call up Beam and literally, I'm worthy. like seriously, people will buy your stuff. and Beam Centauri does their homework, and they're like, guess what, Chrissy? Delaware really doesn't sell bourbon. And so they get the commodity bourbon in these retailers.
So are you telling me that distillers and the Beam Centauris, the Brown Formans, et cetera, do they prefer?
They love
Controlled states?
Love control states.
They love control states.
Here's why. They go one place. They don't have to go retail to retail to retail to retail to retail to retail and make all these decisions. They're just like, Jim, we want to give you Weller 107, Weller Reserve. Jim, we want to give you Beam Centaur. We want to give you OGD 114. Jim, we want to, and it's like, yeah. And here's the big difference, though. The individual retailer who makes an investment in beer, wine, cheese, milk, spirits, guess what? He's got a limited budget. And if he chooses wrong and he doesn't sell this, he's stuck with it. And the state has purchasing power.
Sure.
Right? And so if this choice or some other choice doesn't make it, I've got 50 other brands that I'm making a ton of money on.
If you live in an open state, can you buy online? Is it legal to buy and trade?
State to state.
Yeah, it depends on
State to
state.
state.
It's state law.
Delaware, you might be able to go online
What
and
I
buy
saw on Instagram, I saw, Chrissy, first of all, I'm going to advise you to, first of all, move to Columbus, Ohio.
She said she wants to move to Ohio.
You should. Ohio.
You sleep in the
Get out of
couch.
It's
Delaware.
awesome here.
And secondly,
There's a couch over
I
there, looks
saw,
pretty
I
comfortable.
saw a post from a liquor store in Chicago, in Illinois.
Benny's?
Oh, yeah. What?
Benny's?
I don't know. But it said, if you buy
John Q. customer.
$100 of something else, then you are eligible to buy this.
Right.
Very new thing in Kentucky, northern Kentucky. A lot of this,
Which
the
is
stores,
bullshit.
yeah.
It's like, yeah, what's the matter?
Well, let him tell you.
You don't have $100 to
Let him tell you
spend?
about Kentucky.
Well,
Yes.
all right then, we'll take the boy.
Exactly.
You know,
But you know, 100
bullshit.
And I like your dog.
100,
Yeah, exactly.
100 points would be nice. So, like, you know, I'm going to catch a lot of flack because of what I'm saying to other bourbon nuts or enthusiasts. But, you know, like Northern Kentucky used to be the same type. You can go to some of the places in Northern Kentucky. You're lucky enough to get something, a relationship you get. But now they've gone to a point system. So, say, for example, if you want to get a bottle of Weller single barrel pick, you may have to buy, I don't know my points exactly, but you may have to buy $500 worth of product in their store.
In order to get to, that's
And guess
So
what?
and then
You know-
so then you can buy it for
if I
$49.99.
If I have
so
saved up to buy this particular bottle, which retails at this cost, you're going to tell me that I got to spend $100
Okay,
in order to
and,
be
and, let me tell you
No,
two
that's-
newsflash, two other items. In Delaware, in Indiana,
Back to
in
you, Chris.
Chicago, in New York, in California, in Indiana, guess what?
What?
They get to put whatever price they want
Yes, I know.
on that bottle.
I know.
At whatever price. And so when I hear people say, I saw Blanton's in Chicago, I saw Blanton's in Washington, D.C., I'm like, how much was it? Well, it was $250. I'm like, well, why didn't you buy it? Well, because I can get it in Ohio for $54.99,
yeah, if you can find it. Or
right?
or other avenues.
But the other thing, let me tell you about
ahead.
the other thing is those retailers, when you go in, it was just like Ohio. Before we started cracking down on the state liquor agency stores, guess what their game was? If you buy a bunch of wine, if you buy a bunch of beer in a state liquor store, the guy who doesn't even
If you
own
buy
the
these 3-day-old birthday cakes.
if you buy my wine and my beer that I own,
all true statements.
you get a chance to
you get a chance.
I will sell you one of the state's Eagle Rares or whatever. So
Well, there are people that used to say that. Like they'd say, like I'd go in and I'd buy wine at a store, just because if I bought enough wine from them, they'd give me a good bottle.
I got a couple more questions here. Spencer Wood, we're going to get to your
I know
question.
Spencer.
You know Spencer? We're going to get to your question in just a moment, but I want to, because Spencer's got a great question, and I'm curious about it as well. But
Spencer, if you set me up,
he did not set you.
I know where you live.
I thought there's a lot of inside questions. Everybody that you know.
I know where you live.
The podcast that is currently
Dino's
airing on
classmates.
Whiskey Business right now is with Adam Hines from High Bank Distillery, Whiskey War, and all their products. And it was a great podcast. If you haven't watched it yet, shame on you. We had a great time. We went on location to the High Bank Distillery. And one of Adam's questions, and I made a note, and he just reminded me, but I made the note.
any sense to you back there?
And once again, it falls on you, but it's not really you. It's
I have
the
to
law.
fix my telephone book.
It's
Hold
the
on a
law.
minute.
It's the law. Why are distilleries limited to only selling 2 bottles at
State
a
law.
time? I know it's a state law.
State law. Jim Canepa has no control.
No control over it. But,
Zero.
But as Jim Canepa, and I will put you on the spot on this one, would you like to see that change?
To me, again, my role is to follow the laws that are.
I understand you follow the law.
and like I don't get to make policy.
And
It's a beautiful thing.
And some of
Dino.
those things, I mean, it's some of those.
Would I make more money?
Is it distilleries?
Here,
It's
let me-
gotten
here,
better.
Let me put it to you this way.
It's gotten it's gotten better. It's gotten better.
never
I mean,
work. The
High
distiller-
Bank Distillery was allowed to go from ground up and actually build a restaurant and a distillery all at the same time. So there was a time where they weren't able to do that. So things are loosening up. Do you see? And I'm not asking. I'm not committing. Do you see that? Do you see this kind of antiquated law changing anytime
So-
soon? And I'm not putting you on the
so
spot.
I'll give you
And
my
And I know
analysis.
it's not up to you.
Yeah, it's not up to me. I'll give you my analysis. Okay. So the distilleries are a manufacturer. They're not a retailer.
Right.
Okay.
And yet, but they have
It goes back to
they have restaurants and
but it goes back to prohibition.
okay.
Okay.
And why?
What an evil
why
word.
should it go
It goes
back
back-
that
What
freaking
an
far?
evil
It
concept.
just goes back to prohibition where Augustus Bush used to sell beer,
Right.
and the only beer that you could buy at the bar was his beer.
Okay.
So This whole thing was created to prevent the manufacturer from dictating what could be sold at the retail location. It's a vestige from years ago, and at this juncture, that's the law. Jim
Okay,
Canepa.
all right.
Now, would I make a ton more money if you could sell more at the distillery? Probably.
Not you personally, the state of Ohio. The state of Ohio.
Right.
But,
Let's clarify
Yeah,
that.
Is that 2 bottles per person?
It's
is what
2
they're saying?
bottle per retail customer
See-
as they come up.
See, I would tell you if it was limited, I'll tell you as a bourbon enthusiast, the bourbon nut, if it was something good, there would be the whole lot would be gone, and
Because
probably
this
2 or
guy-
3
this
people would
guy-
buy
This guy has
12
a
or 20 bottles if they were good enough.
This guy has a distillery and a restaurant in Grandview. All right, and he can only sell 2 bottles at a time. But his customers.
What do I tell you all the time?
His customers.
Shut up.
No. Besides shut up, change.
It's shut up a lot.
His customers.
Change the law, right?
Right, yeah. I mean, Jim has brought that up tons
His
of times.
customers can go down the street to Giant Eagle and buy as many bottles as they want.
That's because Giant Eagle is a retailer,
I understand that.
and
he
he
is
is a manufacturer.
Manufacturer.
And they carved out this little exception for distillers that you could sell in your storefront. But guess what? Here's another sort of little known nuance. What they're selling in their storefront is my liquor.
Right.
The state of Ohio's liquor.
Right.
That I already bought from him. And now he's putting it on the shelf.
Right.
And now he's selling 2 bottles at a time. If he wants to put it in the liquor store, it's unlimited because Giant Eagle doesn't make it. They're a
Right.
retailer. They're not a manufacturer.
But what's it matter if the state of Ohio?
I guess
like
the
you
question
said, the
is
state
what-
of Ohio gets more money.
I'm just
What's
telling
it
you-
matter?
I'm just telling
So
you the
why
law.
doesn't the antiquated law? Why does it?
what would it take
Who-
to change something like
yeah,
this?
what
Or
would it-
does
You know what it would
would-
take is Dino Tripodis and a sandwich board.
Yeah,
Let's
yeah, let's do
no,
it.
Dina
At the-
Tripodis
Let's do it.
going on the Senate floor. I demand change. I demand change. Change.
Dino on the stump. Let's see it.
Change.
Put the dress on. Change. We
Put
want
the dress
change.
on.
Bring back the dress.
I don't think the dress would help.
I think the dress would actually be the
No,
tipping point.
Nah, I don't think it would be. It would be a distraction.
It's current law.
Yeah, it's current law.
It's current
Do you
law.
see it changing? Let me ask you that.
I don't know.
You don't know.
I don't
Okay,
know
that's
what
fair.
I don't know what
That's
the
a fair
appetite for
answer.
that is.
All right, and now let me go back to Spencer.
That's a
Question. Spencer Wood, what is going to be Ohio's next barrel pick? I have questions about that because, and I don't know if you're at liberty to answer this, but
Sure, of course.
I was with you all.
Yeah, the
on
question we get all the time, like the next pick that you're going on or the next pick coming out.
No, well, I was on.
Because I think the only one that
I
everyone
was on.
cares
I was
about
on
is
2 picks.
is-
One of those picks has dropped. That was the Jack Daniels,
Right.
and it was amazing.
awesome.
Dropped in
man.
terms
Which is
of
really good.
you can buy it.
You can buy it. It was there. It was everything.
And what did you learn about Jack, by the way?
What did I learn about Jack?
Yeah,
About Jack
it's bourbon,
Daniels?
right?
What?
You learned that it's bourbon.
I
really
learned that
bourbon?
it is bourbon. It
right.
is
Because
actually
one of that was
bourbon.
one of the questions.
Yeah, it is actually bourbon.
Right.
But they choose
To call
to
it
keep,
Tennessee
to,
whiskey.
to keep calling it Tennessee whiskey.
That's their brand.
And that was great. And those picks that we made, I was very proud of because I was part of that. Then we also went to Buffalo Trace,
Right.
and we made some Weller foolproof picks. And
How many
we-
barrels did you
which-
taste?
21 barrels. It was the greatest day of my adult life.
And now I can officially say it on camera that I did go on that. It was the great. It was the greatest day of my life.
It was great. It was awesome. It was, you know,
It's sublime.
it was the equivalent of me as a child going to the circus, as I said at the beginning of the podcast, for the first time. It was because I'd been to Buffalo Trace before, and I got the routine. And not to say that the routine tour sucks. It's great. It's great. But
now remember,
we
when
were-
we start answering these questions.
yeah, the mean tweets. We're gonna get
when
to
we
that.
and we start answering these questions, remember it wasn't just the routine. Blah blah
Oh
blah.
no! It was
Remember. Hold that thought when we come back to it.
Yeah,
we
but
come
Jim,
back.
I think this is a great. This pick is like if I would get killed by everybody that I know if I did not
Say.
try to push you finally on the Weller foolproof pick.
The Weller
Because-
foolproof. I
But
know.
this pick is like ties into everything that's good and bad because right now there's so many good things. Like 7 barrels are coming into the state, which is amazing. If you're into bourbon, that's
7 out of
amazing.
21.
7 out of 21.
Which I'm proud to say that out of those 7 out of the 21, 5 were mine that I signed off on. I'm one of
He
them.
endorsed.
So
I
if
endorse.
they suck, remember to blame Dino. Remember
You
that,
can blame
not
me,
Jim.
I don't care.
But no,
Stop blaming him. He gets enough grief as
but
it is.
the bad part about that is that on the one side, it's something great's coming,
Right.
And you have people that just
Something's
impatient on the back.
coming,
On the
something
back side,
good.
there's just so much hate going on to Jim,
That's right.
Jen, and all these people.
So let's talk about Weller 12.
Tell the whole story.
Weller
Foolproof.
Tell the whole story about what's going on because I think people are demanding to know.
I'm so excited. We get to find something out.
So here's the whole story.
We want to know. I'm looking at the camera like a kid at Christmas. Tell me, Santa, what's going on?
So here's the whole story. There was a big boom, and then single-cell organisms turned into amphibians. They crawled up onto the earth and became dinosaurs. No, what happened
That's
was...
not what my religion teacher told me.
So what happened
Can't
was...
teach that, Jim.
You were there.
Yeah, I was there.
You were there.
I was there.
I was supposedly there. But
We
yes.
had...
You were there.
We had a liquor...
You were there?
We had a liquor agency there.
Mm-hmm.
We had a bourbon club from Youngstown.
Yes, we
there.
We had Jen there.
Jen was there. And we tasted 21 barrels.
21
Amazing barrels. You should have
Amazing
bought all
barrels.
21.
And by the way, let me just say this while I'm on a rant. Okay?
Go ahead.
When
Rant away.
When Sazerac is selling barrels to the state of Ohio, they're not like I'm not like Bubba's Bar and they're going to get like, "Hey, grab those saddle leather tasting whiskey out of the back.
Get the nutsack barrel.
Get the
that we
nutsack
can't
barrel.
sell. That's a call.
Get the one that tastes like a styptic pencil."
Get the nutsack barrel.
While you're on your rant, though, there's a lot of
From
people that
Ohio.
still do not believe. This is one of the things, not to cut them off, but I will. A lot of people still, the bourbon enthusiasts, what drives me nuts too, is all of them think that the state does not do these picks. They're just blindly just bringing barrels into the state without anybody tasting them, without someone like you or me or people that know bourbon going out there. And it's, again, it's one of my biggest, why I stick up for Jim all the time and people are crazy. But this is funny. There was a lot of different people that went on that pick. A lot of people have different types of palates. And I think the 7 barrels that we came out were amazing.
Cross
variety.
section.
Okay.
So
But when are they coming out, Jim?
do you want to know the
know.
story?
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on to the next subject.
Don't want to know the story when they're coming?
No, you look like you wanted to move on to the next
No,
subject.
I
so I'm
wanna
not
know
going to
when
talk
they're-
about.
I kinda
No, I'm
want
not
an
talking about.
idea.
I am not
No.
talking about
Wow.
Weller
Because it
Foolproof.
answers,
Yes, you are.
it answers
Because
one
you
of-
want to move on to the next
it
thing. We're
answers,
gonna.
no,
I'm not
it
answering
answers
the
another question.
No. He's talking. No more questions. He has to answer
not
this
a
one. Don't let him
question.
go.
New products coming to Ohio. That's from Todd Conley. Thank you, Todd.
We already talked to that.
We-
Talked about that
I
one,
know,
Todd.
but what else is
So-
coming? The Weller Foolproof
No,
is
we're
coming.
skipping
When is
the
it coming?
Weller.
No. When is it
We're
coming?
skipping
What's
the
the
Weller
plan?
coming.
What's the
It's
plan?
coming. But it is coming.
We have
It's-
not received it yet.
So,
It's-
I've
we
heard-
haven't-
can I
we
tell you what
have
I've
not
heard?
received it yet, but it is coming.
Here's what I've heard.
so
I've
I
heard
would
that it's
love to
sitting in
hear-
the warehouse.
So
I'll
I would
tell you
love
the
to
story.
hear what he's heard based on nothing.
So here's what I've heard. So the rumor is that all of them are sitting in the warehouse.
Just
waiting.
Waiting.
Again, you talked about
because I'm not in the business of selling stuff.
So there's a
I
lot
just
of
wanna
you don't want.
So there's a
you
lot of
don't
rumors
want-
going
you
on.
just
They've been
want
sitting
to
there.
just-
So
I just want to.
This is my one chance to
I wanna
deprive
s-
the state of Ohio.
I want to stack it up as high as I can.
So I've heard that, and that comes, and it's crazy because there's a big, you talk about the Facebook that you're on
right.
today. The Facebook is the number one way for us bourbon enthusiasts to communicate with each other. We've got out of our basements of our parents' house with the Cheetos. I actually own my house, so. But yeah, so that's the one rumor. The other rumor, that's really the big rumor, and that the state just doesn't know what they
We're
want to
sitting
do
on
with
it.
it.
We're stockpiling
and they don't
it.
want
We're
it. They don't want to
oh
release
yeah,
it.
the conspiracy theories.
So-
The other, I think I have a better answer, and I think Jim is the answer he gave me. So, all you people that thought I was making up, Jim is going to tell you what I've already told you.
Okay, so yes, we picked 7 barrels of Weller Foolproof,
It was hard
and guess what they're doing right
was
now?
hard.
Guess what
It
they're
was amazing.
doing? They're bottling it
as we speak.
as we speak. And mind blowing, right?
Right.
But why is it taking so long to
I
bottle
don't
it?
dictate to Weller the timeline. Is that like amazing?
no, but it's
But that's a perception that some people have, that you as a superintendent,
You're the man
have
behind the
some-
curtain. You have all the
have
power.
some control.
Bill
Goldring, you get to dictate
Bill
when the
Goldring, you
shit
own
comes
Put on
it.
your
out.
big boy pants and tell him to give you your bottle.
You're the Bill Goldring, the owner of Sazerac. By golly, the people in Ohio want it bottled and in a warehouse right now.
Yes, some people think that.
Dino and a sandwich board can get it.
Here we go.
In a dress,
Dino
on a
on the
sandwich
Senate floor.
The guy-
with a sandwich
right.
board.
The guy,
And a dress.
the guy
And a
making
sandwich.
it, the guy making it, and the people who own it will bottle it like Grey Poupon in its own time.
When they're ready.
And when it gets here,
It'll get here.
guess what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna sell it. But
And
I
it's-
will tell you, for
It's not
all concerned, you're gonna drive and have to find it.
Yeah, I know.
It's not all gonna be in Columbus. For all you
No,
chasers,
as
Time
much
to
as
get a
that would-
camper.
it's-
It might be.
nice.
What was the county? Jefferson
It would
County.
be nice.
What was the county? Jefferson County. Your classmate.
Yeah,
Jefferson
Jefferson
County.
County.
Jefferson
Guess what?
County. Guess what?
Jefferson County.
Forget about Blanton.
It's going to be like Woodstock in every little town across Ohio.
And I want to say, I want to mention that because
Can it be in Findlay where my son goes to college, please?
when we were there and I
So
was
I can kill
sending
two birds with one
videos
stone.
out on Instagram and posts on, you know what? I'm in the same boat
doing okay?
as you
All right, let's
are.
go to the liquor
When
store.
this stuff actually
love
gets
you, son.
released to the state of Ohio,
Here's some
I'm
quarters for
chasing
life.
it.
When do you turn
Just
21?
like you. There's no special privileges because I'm talking to Jim Canepa.
Because he
I
picked
got-
the shit.
I got to chase it just like everybody else. And I picked it. You would think just as a nice little like
3
thank
times
you-
on the podcast.
Thank you for
Yeah, come
coming
on, Jim.
to Kentucky. And no, I don't. So I'm in the same boat as you as far as like, oh
Has Dino been
gosh,
hanging out with me? I feel like the same
hope,
exact thing.
I hope I get 21 because that was my favorite, by the way.
21, yep.
21 was my favorite.
21 was not your favorite.
21 was my favorite.
You remember on Facebook, you have to send people to alternate places. If
Don't
you tell
tell 'em
everybody what your
21.
favorite is, man,
You just
it's
blew
gonna
it.
be gone. You blew it. Number 5 was the best. Barrel number 5, everyone. Forget about what Dino said. Dino's had a lot to drink over there. 21 was
12,
awful.
He's dyslexic.
Number
Awful.
5 was my favorite. No. 21 was my favorite. I don't know what he's talking about. All right, couple.
I've got just a quick question here.
Quick
This
one.
is from.
You?
Why
no,
is your
no,
why is
no.
yours more important than the guy from Jefferson
No,
County?
this is from Movie Fan 84. What are your thoughts on the boring film A Quiet Man?
What are you bringing that up?
I don't know. This person here, Movie Fan 84.
All right,
asked
That's
it.
a John Wayne movie.
First of all, let me give you a little.
That's a John Wayne movie.
He did it.
He did that on
He
purpose.
did it on purpose.
Someone
He
asked.
did it on
That's
purpose.
what the people want.
He's just doing his job.
The podcast before High Bank was
what the
guilty
people
pleasure
want.
movies, and he called me out on the Quiet
good,
Man.
right?
On the
It's
Quiet,
9 hours
he
long.
called me out
This
on
is
the
part
Quiet
I have in
Man.
my decanter at home.
That's not a real question.
I have it in the
Movie Fan
decanter, it's not
84.
labeled.
Are you movie fan 84?
Yes!
You were movie fan 84. Tony.
All right.
All right. He called me out on The Quiet Man because he thought it was a boring movie. I say I watch it every St.
It's The
Patty's Day.
Quiet Man.
I watch it every St.
It's a
Patty's
great
Day
movie.
night after I get back from the bars and
Are
I
they
watch The
drinking
Quiet
bourbon
Man.
And isn't like
Irish whiskey.
who's the actress?
John Wayne and Maureen O'Hara.
Maureen O'Hara. I
Yeah.
mean, that doesn't get
Directed
any better.
by John fucking Ford.
Nominated,
I
not
fucking all
no,
night, but
didn't
I will
win
not.
an Oscar.
It was nominated. Oh, you know what? You did it on purpose. I'm moving on. I'm moving on to
okay.
a more pertinent question.
but
First of all, do you like the movie? Do you
I
like
love that movie.
You love that movie. Do you like the movie?
Actually,
John Wayne.
Never
If you
seen it.
If you want me to
Because
lie,
he
I
was
can
born
say
in-
It's in Ireland.
Dude, I was born
it's
in
John Wayne is
1972.
an Irish guy.
I don't
who-
care if you were born in 1976.
But do you want me to lie to you? I would say it's the best movie I've ever
It
seen.
doesn't- don't care if you're born in
I have not
1970.
seen it, but I will get on there. I will get on.
they're millennials.
YouTube or-
They're millennials.
Okay.
They're millennials.
Okay, all right.
But before you let him go on, before you let you go
we
on
got to
the
get
next
to the mean
question,
tweets, and then
though,
we
you have to
one
go
more
back.
question.
You have to go back to the whole
We don't have time to
foolproof
go.
thing again.
What now?
Because here's
Foolproof. Back to
where
what?
here's where my
Foolproof.
frustration is I think
Shay's not done.
No,
All
no.
right.
I mean, it comes back to what
Everybody,
I'm thinking about.
buckle in. We're gonna
It's
be
about-
in
it's about-
for a minute. Everybody,
I'll be done in 20 seconds. It's about. I think what Jim does a great job, which frustrates me, is you do protect the distilleries, your distributors who are the pipeline to get it in here. It's very easy. There's been tons of posts on their Facebook, and we'll read those soon about how awful they're doing. Not once has Jen or Jim or the team said, "Oh, it's not our fault. It's somebody else's fault." And sometimes you just have to think back and realize that you don't have all the information. I think it's a frustrating thing to
Right.
me because I have the inside information. I want to just say, hey, this is what I know, but I think you guys do a great job, but the bad part about it is the mean tweets that you're going to read here soon.
Oh, the mean tweets we're going to get to,
which are hilarious.
And then
Because they're so.
Yeah, they're great.
we'll have
If they
the
weren't
mean
serious.
tweets,
So
the mean tweets, and one final question from Krista before we go.
And then real quick too, maybe if you're cool with it,
He wasted
well,
like 10 minutes of our
Yeah,
show
on
that movie
his
that no one
stupid
ever
movie
saw.
thing.
it's important. Maybe after we're done recording this podcast, we have a few lingering Facebook questions. The podcast will be over, but we'll answer a few
I'm peeling
questions.
out immediately.
Well,
It's a school
Diva!
night. It's a school night.
Superintendent Diva!
There's
No, it's
not,
a school
there's
night.
not any
He's
snack.
peeling
There's,
out immediately.
there's no
He's-
cheese board
he's-
here.
he's,
the charcuterie board.
There's no charcuterie board here. There's
we're
nothing.
already
It's a
past
school
this
night.
1 hour.
It's a school night.
Like I'm up way later than normal.
I know you are.
Holly has a question. Will you stay for Holly?
Who are you gonna
Holly.
say for your wife?
Okay, if I want to go home, I'm going to answer this question.
What's the wife's question?
She wants to know what whiskey she should buy for her hubby.
I like Boone County.
Boone County is awesome.
I love Boone County.
I just
Holly,
drained.
I'm out of Boone County.
We just drained a bottle of Boone County
love
not too long ago.
But you can only buy that.
And by
you
the
buy
way,
that in Ohio now?
and by
No,
the
you
way,
can buy it in Ohio.
new
It's available.
product.
Shut
By
up.
the way,
Shut
new
up.
product.
Shut up. It's available. You know, wink, wink. I
But that
get
it wasn't. Now
it wasn't,
is.
but now it is. Right now it is. All right.
Great
All right.
segue.
So let's get to some fun stuff here. It is not easy being the superintendent
Being me.
of liquor control in
Or
the
his
state
friend.
of Ohio. You get praise and you get punishment as well. What?
Can't hear you.
You can't hear me? I'm talking right to the microphone. What do you mean you can't
broke
hear
it.
me?
He broke it.
I didn't break it. He's just always
picky.
bitching at me about.
He's particular.
My,
You said he was the best audio guy earlier.
he
I
is the
feel like
best
it's,
audio guy, but I am
feel like
the
he's, like,
worst.
turned on you really quick after.
He is the best audio guy. I am the worst
Okay.
host.
He's like he's
because
the best
I don't-
audio guy I could hire.
Because I just think that the microphone picks up everything. So let's get to the mean tweets. You
I've
get
been waiting all
tweeted
this
on a
up.
regular basis.
And Lindsay has to
Tweeted,
read 'em.
Facebooked.
And Lindsay reads them.
Lindsay reads them. But you're going to read them tonight.
I guess so.
Oh,
Yeah, you're going to read. I'll read
I have
some of
been
them with
waiting.
you.
I have been waiting
because there
for
are a
this.
couple that I enjoy. But go ahead, you pick the first one.
All right.
Mean tweet.
All right.
These are mean tweet. These are from you, people.
So I love this one. Go F yourself. The lottery is fixed. Eat shiznit.
Say it for real. It says, "Go fuck yourself." The lottery
You
is
can do
fixed.
that. I'm a
Eat shit.
I'm
That's
a
what
shit.
somebody.
The
That's
lottery
what
is-
somebody
I can't
actually
say-
decided to type.
You can say that one.
So first of all, my first question in response to that tweet is, do you fuck yourself? And
Do you eat shit?
and secondly, is the lottery fixed?
So like everybody enters the lottery,
Right.
and it gets picked.
It does.
Like,
it's
randomly.
It's random. Just like
Is it random though, Jim?
it is. Stop it. Stop it, you. Stop.
So what's
That's-
funny
You're
is-
No, I mean,
We had
you know, I'm
somebody
gonna say-
we had somebody in another mean
I know-
tweet say like, why are so many women winning Pappy? Why are so many people named Jeff winning Pappy?
I just want one guy named Che to win. That's all I care about.
So go ahead.
I love this one. It's all a farce ran by public dollars. End the corruption. We're a controlled state. Go ahead, respond to that. What corruption?
And what are they talking about?
It's a farce run by public
because
dollars.
the corruption is you have all the Pappy in your
is
basement.
behind. Somebody with a lot of public money is behind all of it.
Urban Meyer has all the Pappy.
to keep the whiskey business
Bezos.
down
Yeah,
Maybe
that's right.
Bezos
in
is
Ohio.
doing it.
Somehow they will benefit Jim Canepa.
I bet you LeBron James.
So
got
the
a
only thing that
Pappy
keeps me
23.
like sane about these is I like to put your mom is ... So for example,
First of all, do you respond
bed.
to these? Do you respond
Yes,
to
we
any
do.
of these?
Yeah.
Do you?
it is criminal how poorly you all run the events. You should be ashamed. Your mom should be ashamed.
Is that how you respond?
The truth is, I would prefer Ohio opened up the supply of quality spirits. Right now, it seems like a mafia-type organization with liquor control managing what comes into the state and setting prices. Your mom is a mafia type.
Yeah. Let me tell you something. If the mafia actually got involved in all of this, things would probably
Like,
run.
so
pretty
I don't even
goddamn
understand that.
smooth.
I don't even like.
Kidding.
The statute sets prices. The supplier sets the prices.
Right.
What are they talking about?
Yeah, but Dino, you said earlier before you even started when you first started the podcast, you said these were hilarious. They would be really hilarious if people weren't dead serious and really hateful. That's the funny
I
thing
understand
about
that
these.
they're dead serious.
Yeah, they are funny to read, but they are.
Oh, this is one of my favorites. Are you ageist or just incompetent?
Ageist.
Incompetent.
Are you ageist or hey, are you the whole bundle? Are you both?
Why are they mutually exclusive?
You show your boss these, Jeff.
Are you both?
Why are they mutually exclusive? Why can't I not like old people and be
ageist and incompetent?
And incompetent.
You know, right?
You know?
Yeah.
So I like this one. And there's 3 in the similar vein.
Yeah.
Right. 4, 6, and 7 are similar. One guy who might drink terrible bourbon any other time choosing for everyone else. Also, what is the credibility of OHLQ team?
Oh no, I'm taking that personally because I've been on
Janet
I've been
from
on-
the way,
accounting
thank you.
and Scott materials handling. What a joke.
Oh, bullshit.
Exactly.
First of all,
See?
nobody named Janet from accounting was on that
Yeah,
trip,
and Scott.
nobody from Scott from materials handling was there either. You know what? These were people that went on this. The 2 picks. Let me just
Go ahead.
speak passionately.
There you go.
The people that went on the 2 picks I was on were people that love whiskey, that love to sit, taste, smell, palate, wait for the finish. These were all these people.
Not to mention the master distiller.
Not to mention the master distiller that was
Who was
there.
there?
Who was
well.
phenomenal.
At Old Forester. Jackie Z.
Yes, Jackie's
Chris,
been on.
Chris Morris.
Yes,
Eddie, last week, Eddie Russell.
No, Eddie. I heard Eddie didn't go on your
Yeah,
guys'
Eddie
pick.
Russell.
That's another rumor. Yeah, he wasn't going to
Jane
your
from
pick.
accounting and Scott from materials handling would love to come on this trip, and they would probably,
So here's
Well,
another.
we would need him for a-
here's 7.
for a ride home.
Here's the other one. So the barrel you picked but didn't taste before you picked it sucked, Jimmy. Ohio needs to smash the control system.
Smash the control system. Do you want to be like Chicago? Do you want to have to spend $100 before you can buy something that you really want to buy? Is that what you want?
And not to mention, again, like
Yeah, that one caused you a lot of flack.
If I'm at Old Forester, I have Jackie with me. If I'm
Right.
at Woodford, it's Chris Morris. If I'm at Wild Turkey, it's Joe Head from Century Bar and Eddie Russell. I mean, like,
Okay.
Which is
I
which
have
is
one
true. So like you went on the pick with us in August.
Yes.
Right? So
Yes.
I was fortunate to go on a pick in June for a private barrel.
For
At
which
Buffalo
one?
Trace, which was
Where?
unbelievable. Buffalo Trace, same thing, same.
same
Same
thing that we
place
were
we
on.
went.
Okay.
Right.
I have to tell you,
Just wanna make sure
going
you guys
with
are
the-
going places
No, going with
without
the
me.
state, completely different experience. Like you say you go on a barrel pick for a
Bar
a
or
wholesale
whatever.
account. Going with the state was completely different. Jim is exactly right. The big people come out. People
They
think
roll out the
They
red
do.
carpet.
They do. Well,
Why? But why? Okay, so they ask the question why? Because I'm gonna
Unlimited.
buy
that unlimited checkbook.
$10 million worth of your shelfies.
Right.
I'm gonna buy your Fireball.
Ball
I'm
sack
gonna
vodka.
buy all this stuff, and they want me to come back and buy another 30 barrels of Maker's Mark. So I'm getting.
When I noticed that because I've been to both distilleries separately on like the what I call the normal people tour and then our tour, and same thing with Jack Daniels. I've been on the Jack Daniels tour, and then we went to Jack Daniels to make barrel picks, and they were
Right?
and I'm sorry, they were markedly different because they had a lot more vested in this group. Because we were buying for the state of Ohio.
Bubba's Bar is gonna spend
Yeah.
$5,000. I'm
Yeah.
gonna spend millions.
But Jim, I think you're missing a point to talk about how you get on that pick team and to be besides working in accounting.
so there was
you
a-
now have a new program,
Right,
which I
there-
think was one of the things we talked about in the initial meeting. You can, as an Ohio
So-
resident, go on these picks.
So this goes
and you
back
can talk
to
about
so this goes back to what you said. I listen, right?
You do listen.
So
You do,
Not all the
you
time.
do,
So
you
all
do.
not all the time, because Jay has some crazy ideas.
Doesn't listen to you.
Jay has
You
some
might
crazy
go
ideas.
numb in his
he
ear
listens
after
to me,
a
doesn't
while.
admit it. What did you say? Can you say that again?
You might go numb
Jay
in his
does
ear
have
after
some
a
good
while.
He
ideas.
has
I
some
heard
good
that.
ideas once in a while.
Once in a while.
But so like at the very beginning when I started picking barrels,
Yeah.
Which by the way, the barrels that we're getting, the single barrel program,
Right.
Here's people don't understand this. This is extra whiskey. This is extra whiskey. This isn't like what we were going to get. This is going to be on top of what we were going to get. So these barrels aren't like, oh, the Ohio, like somebody had to pick them. We just got them. And so when we're talking about like who should go on these picks, credibility mattered to me. Street credibility mattered to me. So I'm inviting agencies.
Yeah, he did.
I'm inviting bourbon clubs.
You are.
I'm inviting Dino Tripodis, influencers. Kind of.
Influencer. What a great
Kind
name.
of.
Influencer.
Right?
Kind of.
I'm inviting regular people.
No.
In the Golden Barrel program in 42 Plus magazine. If you sign up, I pick you. You come with me, and you help pick the barrels. And so, like, for all the people out there who don't believe it,
Believe it.
Believe it.
All right. Let's. We got to start wrapping.
Wow,
We
you
gotta-
guys like this?
Yeah, we did like it. I'm
gonna have to go down to Kentucky and get a bottle of that, Jim.
Things up. One last mean tweet, and then one question from Krista before we go. Congrats to being the reason we can't have. Oh, I'm gonna call you out on this. I don't know who it came from. Congrats to being the reason we can't have rare whiskey or bourbon shipped to our homes. Congrats on being the reason we have such a limited supply to great bourbons. Yeah, pat yourself on the back for being the most controlled state. Woo! Bravo!
Woo! Good job, Jim.
Yeah. Let me take a lap.
Way to not break the law.
Bow for us. Stand up and bow, please. There's a lot
Let me
of
take a
cameras.
lap.
Bravo! Well done.
You ruined everything, Jim. Everything's ruined.
Okay.
Well, that was your world.
No,
Not that long.
no,
That
not
was
that,
your
that
world.
was not my world. The
That was
world
a little
the
bit of your
shipping.
a
world.
little bit of your world.
A little bit of your world.
You were a hater for a while.
I have may or may not have had one package of bourbon, only one ever shipped to my house. I got on the trip.
so the thing is, again, it's not Jim's rule.
Right.
Jim,
It's
all your fault.
illegal
It's
to
illegal.
Who's in charge?
order whiskey from out of state
I
into
understand.
state
Right.
because the state of Ohio sells whiskey.
Right.
And to order it from some retailer from someplace across the country to your doorstep is illegal. You're not-
Illegal.
here.
And the
Here.
story.
And
the
other
story.
states.
And,
So
and most other
But
states.
Yeah.
Jim Canepa is not hunting you down.
What if my sister sends me something?
Oh,
illegal. You can't mail
Illegal.
liquor.
even if you're not.
Tell her to
paying-
if your sister sends you something,
But
tell
my
her
point
to
is that-
put
My point is
macaroni
that
and
Jim
cheese in there,
Canepa
then they
is
don't
not
know what it
looking
is.
for
I'm
that
not checking your
individual-
mail.
You know, he's not checking your mail. He's not checking it. He's just telling you what the
The
law
law is. The law is you can't
It's-
order it
it's
on the
basic.
internet.
If you
Yeah.
can- you know-
because the main reason is that whoever that is in New York, New Jersey, who's selling you that isn't paying taxes.
The bottom line is if you're doing
tax
that,
evasion.
They're not paying taxes on it.
Are you so worried about making money instead of
Be,
just
no,
giving
no,
us good
but,
bourbon
but,
or what?
but to
Jim?
the whiskey
What is your
people,
what's your
Be
be
priority,
honest,
buddy?
if
Imagine
you're doing
that.
if you're doing
Running
that
a business, no way. I
already,
can't
and you've
imagine
been doing that, you're probably not going to stop doing it. But
You're probably
but
right.
until you get caught, and then you got to suffer the consequences. All right, one light question to close it out with. How about that?
Sure.
Oh,
Good
yeah.
enough. From Krista, what's Jim's favorite song about booze and or gypsies? Because you
not say
mentioned
gypsies.
whiskey, your whiskey gypsies.
bubbles
You meant
in the wine.
that's your favorite song about booze? Come on.
Makes me happy.
Little Don Ho?
It
Really?
Makes me fine.
It makes you fine.
Yeah, there
Is
you
that
go.
your favorite
That's
song?
my favorite song.
Tiny Bubbles.
Tiny Bubbles.
Wow.
It is. It is my favorite song. Don Ho.
I think if we could dig deeper, I'd pull something else from you. That
A live performance somewhere, perhaps?
no. that
Favorite
goes
movie
back-
that has bourbon
That goes
in it.
back to what we said earlier
Quiet Man?
about drinking in the fetal position.
Ah, yes.
I would think there'd be another song that you might be
I was
singing.
mumbling
Okay.
to myself.
We gotta wrap things up. First of all, I want to thank.
Did we
every-
get anything done tonight?
We got it.
Did we answer any questions?
You'd be
at all?
surprised.
We did.
We
Some
got.
guy back there put his thumb up. I have no idea who
I'm
that
looking
was.
at Jennifer, and
Somebody asked
Jennifer's
me-
I mean, if it wasn't a
smiling.
school night, you
Jennifer
could keep
says
going.
Thumbs
I mean-
up, yeah. She's thumbs up on it, and
We
so
finished
yes.
this.
I think
We
it
even
proved
got
to everybody
done.
that you're not the biggest dick that they have.
No,
they
I
thought you
am.
were. I mean,
I really am.
I mean,
No.
personally, it's.
You got
No,
to.
no, it is true. I mean, I think you. I mean, we may not have answered
You
everybody's
got to
question,
be.
but
No. In the position you're in, you have to be a dick when it counts, and then not be a dick when you shouldn't be. And in this podcast, this is your third appearance on it.
It's kind
You've
of
been
dick all the
honest.
time.
You've always
Copperhead
been
Road.
honest and open and share.
I'm like Jack Hanna with the zoo animals. I feel like.
Well, but you made reference to Che.
Hey, I didn't throw shit on anybody, so we're doing well. Yeah.
You were,
That makes you
and
Letterman.
Che, thank you for not, pulling shit out of your ass and throwing it. I appreciate that.
I'm very
much so.
refined. I've been working very hard not to do
really
that.
do.
I had a lot of urges, but I stopped.
There's a couple things I want to say before we start wrapping up and let Hansberry do his final thing with the social medias. Number one, thank you to my guests, Che Miller and James Canepa, the Superintendent of Liquor Control in the state of Ohio. Thank you, Facebook Live, for tuning in and sending in some questions. They were great questions. That
We had a
got
lot
to-
of conversation and engagement. Thank you
I'm
very
sure there was
much.
a lot of
It was
hi,
fun.
how are you?
Yeah,
and
yeah,
so
it was
forth
fun.
and
Thank
so
you,
on.
guys.
I'm sorry we couldn't respond to all of that, but we wanted to get to the questions specifically. John,
Have some more hair.
I'm good.
what did you think? Good? Is that what you?
The camera looks really
I
good.
thought
It's
it was
intimidating.
excellent, actually.
You were
It's
kind of
very
a rye
good.
guy, and that's
I've had that before, actually, in Kentucky, and it's really, really good.
It's really,
It is
really
really
good.
good bourbon.
And he made sure that he wanted to tap into.
He did before we even started the show.
I told Jim I have this in a decanter at home.
Continue, Dino. I'm sorry.
That's quite all
Wow,
right.
he just stepped right in the finale.
Also, want to do a couple of shout outs. I got a, and I say this with my tongue on my cheek because it wasn't schmarmy. It was just kind of tongue in cheek. From my buddy Jake, when we said we were announcing that we were doing Facebook Live, Jake, Finer Things, said, "Oh, where'd you get that idea from?" Well, in all honesty, when I was a guest on Bourbon and BS podcast, they do Facebook Live, and I thought that was kind of cool. And it's taken us this long to incorporate it into our show. I don't know when we'll do this again. We probably will, but I don't know if we'll do it like every time like they do. But thank you to Jake and Nate and Steve over at Bourbon and BS. Also want to remind you that listen to the current podcast that we have on right now. With
Oh,
Adam
we got
Hines.
bonuses.
What's that?
Bonuses. Don't tell them about the bonus.
What are the
After
bonuses?
this.
Yeah, we're gonna.
Oh, yeah.
I've got
More
two great
questions?
questions.
Yeah,
More
there's
questions
a
after,
couple of
yeah.
bonuses that we'll have in the podcast. Maybe not so. No, on Facebook Live we'll have the bonuses. Well, the bonuses on Facebook Live, and then on the podcast we'll incorporate a
Yeah,
couple
John
other
and
video
Franklin
bonuses
have a couple great questions
as well. Also, upcoming podcast, The Premise tomorrow night at Shadowbox Front Stage. Looking forward to that, and also in March, a two-parter with Comedians on South High, which goes funny and deep on some levels that you probably will be surprised that we went to on Whiskey Business. Comedians on South High with my buddies Jason Banks and Kenny Mock wasn't there. Jason Belinsky and Bobby Dodds will be on that podcast. That is something really, really good and intense and
Spiritual.
very
Spiritual.
No, not spiritual.
We had a moment.
Very pertinent and personal. So that's coming up in March on the Whiskey Business. Hansberry, is there anything else you want to mention while you're sipping the last
Your
of
tasting
your-
notes on this?
Peanuts.
Peanuts. For sure.
Peanuts.
Circus
peanuts.
Circus peanuts.
Circus peanuts. Circus peanuts.
The big orange.
It has
The big.
a hint- has a
He's
hint
been waiting to say
The
peanuts
big
the whole night.
orange
Peanuts.
It has
circus peanuts.
Circus peanuts and red vines.
For our Facebook Live viewers, a live premise tomorrow evening at the up
I
front
just
stage.
said that.
Well, John just told me to remind us to
I
go.
just reminded.
I don't know. I'm hearing three things right
Oh,
I
there you
just
go.
said it.
He's
Let's
had
say
a
it
lot
again.
to drink in there.
And I'm not
It's-
listening. Come to the premise tomorrow if you're
They never
listening to
listen
this
to
right
me.
now.
Good job.
For our podcast listeners, subscribe on your favorite podcasting app, rate and review, and you review, that helps out just so much. It propagates.
It really does.
Yeah.
It propagates. He loves the word propagate.
Also, but like this, I feel like we got a lot accomplished. So if you have any
Did we?
whiskey, well,
Did we move the?
We drank a bottle of bourbon, so that's an
He
accomplishment.
thinks we didn't do anything tonight.
We asked a lot of low.
I feel like we spun the wheels in the
maybe,
in the
didn't
snow.
spin the wheel.
We might be making your job easier because we're answering all these questions that people are asking. So
Maybe.
share
Some of them,
share this
anyway.
podcast with all of your whiskey loving, whiskey collecting
Can
connoisseurs.
the state of Ohio share this podcast? Is that allowed? I don't know.
There's probably a law
Maybe like
against
if you
it.
get
There's
it.
a law against
If
it.
you get a
law-
mean
the law
tweet, you
against
can
it?
just like
Probably.
send them a
It
link
goes back
to
to
this
prohibition.
podcast.
Goes back
It goes all the way back to prohibition.
Prohibition specifically
back in
said
prohibition.
you could
Yeah.
not
They- at
market
the same time,
Facebook.
You can't even talk
they
about
said
liquor.
That we weren't had a lot of alcohol across the country. They said no
On Facebook
no
back then.
sharing of
No
podcasts.
podcasts.
Somebody looked into the future and said, let's just put a stop to that right now.
And no,
It's all
definitely no
prohibition.
Dino Tripodis.
I've heard no Dino Tripodis a lot over the course of my life.
All right. Thank you to all the Facebook Live watchers. If this is I feel like we've got some first timers here. So this is your first time. We have a whole archive of episodes. We've been doing this for like 4 years.
3.5 years,
something
almost
like
4
that.
years,
So
yeah.
go back and find us, including
yeah.
2 episodes with Jim Canepa.
Yeah. Those are great ones.
Hall of Famers.
To Hall
They
of
are.
Famers.
You know what?
We only have a couple 3-timers. He's probably
With-
willing to
with all
do
due,
three-
with all due
three-timers.
with all due respect, and I'm not blowing smoke up your ass, but those are some of the more listened to podcasts that we've had. So the 2 times you've been on, because people care about what's going on with
Controversy.
with spirits.
And I remember one of the ones you guys first did. I don't know which one it was, but it's either one of the first 2 because obviously when there. But there was a lot of people that watched that and were like, "Holy cow!" Jim is actually a bourbon guy and loves
Yeah.
bourbon.
Yeah.
And it was kind of an opening, an opening to a lot of people that like he wasn't just some kind of bureaucrat enforcing laws
Pickle
from the
vodka.
prohibition.
Pickle vodka. Pickle
vodka.
vodka.
See, are you going to give me any props for trying to make you come across as
A household
an
name.
Not an asshole.
come across as an actual human being and not some bureaucratic?
Like that's amazing because
Suit
like
with
I'm
the tie.
totally not. I'm like a total.
You are a total human being.
No. Oh, I am.
You are. You're a good
great
guy.
guy.
You're a good guy.
Great
And I
guy.
really-
Follow us on social media.
And you haven't
follow
told me to shut
Jim
up.
on social media. Shay,
Am I on
what-
social media?
I don't know. Shay,
You're on the Facebooks.
Does your
You're
Bourbon
on the
Club-
Facebooks.
I don't know if I can promote my bourbon clubs because they.
You're on the Facebooks.
They all know.
And
They-
you're
my
on
bourbon
the
clubs-
Instagram.
I would rather not. All my bourbon club people know who we are. I don't think we want to promote them.
They all know. They all know how to get a hold
You're
of
on the Instagrams and the Facebooks.
You got the Instagram.
Yeah, but you should go on Ohio
I
Liquor.
never
and,
did talk
and
about the dress. Did
that's
I?
right.
Yeah.
No. I
Go on
never
Ohio
did.
Liquor and say some nice things instead of the shitty things.
Yeah,
that
that's
people
right.
Said.
Oh, you know what?
Because they're
I
doing
think-
great things.
You know what?
Lindsay.
In
I
the,
love
in,
it.
in- in the time that I've gotten to know you, I think you kind of dig
love it.
this.
I love
I
it.
think you kind of dig the
I
mean
love it.
tweets.
I do.
I
I
think
do.
you kind of love it. Like,
Look
I
at
love it
this
too.
medium weight jacket he's been wearing the whole time. You look good,
so
Jim.
what do you?
Look
got
at
Bardstown.
Bardstown.
Look
Look
at
at that. The birthplace of bourbon.
What do you?
I don't
What do
know.
you? Now you're.
I'm trying to fit.
Now
I'm
you're a
trying
fashion
to.
person.
He just lost his
cred.
His
My street cred?
seat
Greg
thing. I think he
Hansberry.
lost some
Look
of
for him on
his,
TLC.
I'm
Say
trying
yes
to
to the jacket.
boost his soul a little bit. All right, I'm done with this.
Are
Let's
you
end
done?
it.
Can I
Yes.
wrap it up?
Yes.
All right,
Okay,
can I wrap
here
it-
we go.
All right, we're going to keep going
Thanks
on
for having me,
Facebook
Dino.
Live with some of the extra questions. But as far as the podcast is concerned,
I love it. Just come right in there and get that.
Take
yummy,
a
yummy,
drop.
get my tummy.
whiskey business.
Forget about the.
Talking to
Whiskey.
your mic.
Whiskey Business is the Never the Luck production, produced on the audio side by Greg Hansberry and John Whitney. And I want to thank
Johnny.
again
Good job, John.
my guests, James Canepa and Shay Miller. And
for
also Jennifer Richardson
And
in the
Jana
background,
Miller.
who
And
is-
Jana, yeah, also known as Jana Miller. It's an inside joke.
I don't know what that means.
That's a street
inside
handle.
joke.
But we got great stuff coming up in the future, and hopefully this will be after tonight. We'll look at this and see if Facebook
cry.
Live is a good idea
We'll cry.
or a bad idea. But if it's a good idea, we'll do it again. And so, my friends, until
Wow.
the next bottle,
Until Canepa can get it.
see ya.